I bet if I unmute the microphone, that would work. Ray O'Mac, thank you for mentioning that. That's a good thing. Okay, let me, I ought to just start from the beginning because I've been talking the whole time, and apparently I have myself muted. Again, I appreciate that. So let me get back here, turn that. Very useful. The thank you, Ray O'Mac. Very good. Let me also mute my browser tab there. I probably would have known that if I had the browser tab muted. All right, so let me take a step back. let's pretend we're all the way at the beginning again, because none of that really mattered. Here I am, 40 minutes into this. I'll start over. Hi, I'm Joe. I run the Adventures from the Shed podcast, Adventures from the Stream, live streaming video podcast. We are online every other Monday. You can find us on adventuresfromtheshed.com, Facebook Adventures from the Shed, YouTube, Twitter feed. We've got a Discord channel now. You're welcome to go there. The link for the Discord. Hey, welcome, Ray O'Mac. The Discord itself is linked in the Facebook, and I can't remember if I put it in the YouTubes, but it's out there. If you need a link, just let me know. I'm pretty sure it's on the Twitch. Yeah, I see it right now. The AFTS on Discord is on the Twitch there. You can find us all over the place. And that's cool, because we'd like to have you around. Today, what I'm working on is, and all over again, Foundry Virtual Tabletop and Low Fantasy Gaming. I know very little about low fantasy gaming, and when I say very little, I mean kind of even less than that. I know what the PDF looks like. They've got a cool website. I've downloaded the PDF. I reviewed it a bit. I don't know much more than that. You're going to see that as we get into Foundry. When it comes to the Foundry Virtual Tabletop itself, I have enough experience with the software now that I feel like I can be a little dangerous. We've been using it, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, on our Adventures from the Stream. Also on our regular Adventures from the Shed audio podcast, we use Foundry in the background. You don't get to see it, but we use it. So we've got 2 games going on with Foundry Virtual Tabletop right now. I'd like to get another system going, and I think Low Fantasy Gaming looks like a really fun system that we could try. Rules Light system, which I like for playing online, audio podcast. You really can't have a lot of dead space, so if you take too much time looking up rules, that can hurt. I don't like that, so I like the Rules Light games. So I'm going to go... all this stuff, I'm going to start over again. We're going to get back to the page here where we can put up the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. That's the tabletop itself. I'll just show you here the Low Fantasy Gaming's website. They've got a pretty cool website. I really like that it's streamlined. The information that's on there is good information, easy to work with. Right on the page of that, they have this free PDF. Great PDF. Again, I've got it. We're not going to go much into the rules because what I want to try and figure out is how the heck do we get this thing into the virtual tabletop so that we can start learning to set something up. What I really want to do with these sessions is make sure that we have the information that we used to create. This isn't a tutorial because I don't know enough about either to be a tutorial. This isn't about how we're playing. This isn't an actual play podcast. What this is all about is the old saying, how the sausage gets made. We're going to show in this series how we start from nothing, including practically zero knowledge of the products we're using, right up to where we're ready to use it, probably within a couple of months on the Adventures from the Stream streaming podcast. I mentioned I'll be using Foundry Virtual Tabletop. This is their site. Again, cool stuff here. Earlier, I mentioned the music that I'm using, which you got to hear because you didn't have to listen to me. But the music itself is from Thessalian Studios. I think that's how it's pronounced. Great, great royalty-free music stuff here. If you're going to make money off of them, definitely donate. Donate even if you're not making money off of them. I sent them a donation. It allows them to keep doing what they're doing. One of the things I really like about the music is it's pretty cohesive. It's like, my impression is that there's one or just a few people that compose this music and put it together, which helps when you're going from scene to scene or from different emotions within the music. There's a cohesiveness to it because it comes from the same hands, which is kind of neat. I like that. So we're going to jump back to the Foundry Virtual Tabletop itself. This is my system running in my house. One of the things I really like about the Foundry Virtual Tabletop is it gives you an option to run without a subscription. You've probably seen other pieces of online virtual tabletop software. I can tell you I have owned and used Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, D20 Pro, Roll20.net, and now Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So far, I can say if you've gotten used to any of the other online ones, it's going to be easy to step into using, as a participant, using Foundry Virtual Tabletop, no problem. As a creator, as a game master within the system, you'll need to learn a few different new tricks, but a lot of it's still similar. When we're using Foundry in Adventures from the Stream here, and Adventures from the Shed, if you've been listening to the audio podcast, you know that we are using Therion. This is Chris's World for the audio podcast. And then for Courageous, which is our streaming podcast, that's the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition system that I use. If you saw the last stream, which would have been 6 days ago-ish, that was the video from the Foundry Virtual Tabletop itself, whenever we have the map on the screen. So that's kind of cool stuff. I just created earlier this Joe's LFG, which is the world that we're going to use here. Little teaser there. There's Dungeon World system in here, and that's kind of cool. Anybody who's listened to me enough knows I am a big fan of Dungeon World. Again, rules light system. Makes it a lot easier to get right into the action. So with that, we're going to take a quick look at a couple of the things we can do on the screen here. The game systems that are available, I already went and got the low fantasy gaming system. As you can see, there's a system for Dungeon World and a system for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. There are others. I'm not familiar with the others, so I'm not going to go into that, but what the system means is it's the rule set behind the scenes. So, for example, in D&D 5th edition, the rule set behind the scenes accounts for all the spells and armor class and things like that. So they're kind of handled in the software, and there's not a lot you have to look up when it comes to full actions and how things work. Again, we're using the low fantasy gaming system. Modules, I've got a lot of modules to help with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, because there's so many cool things out there by the community that just make it more streamlined, more automatic from the Dungeon Master side. And we're not going to worry about configuration and updating the software at this point, because those don't matter for what we're talking about. I'm going to go ahead and launch the LFG that I had started earlier. I won't go through creating it all again, but I will type a super secret password eventually, right? This is going to get us right into the world that I'd already created. So with Rayomac, if you were watching earlier, you probably saw me do this stuff, but we now can hear me. So I'm going to talk over a couple of the things again that I already did. Now, as far as you mentioned importing assets, drag and drop in Roll20, I'm finding a yes and no, because there is a drag and drop, but it's a couple clicks further in. I'll try and redo what I'm doing here to show you what I mean by that. So within Foundry, when you first open it, you won't have a scene. I created this world map scene if you saw it earlier. The other thing I'm going to mention is when I went in, there's one module that I wanted to make sure I had enabled, and that's this cool Touch Vtt module. It allows you to use the a touch screen, which I have in front of me here. I have a touchscreen monitor, so I can do a lot of the things on the map, quick things on the map by touching, you know, like panning, zooming, that type of thing. So I'm only loading that one module because I frankly don't know what else works well with LFG, so I'm not going to mess with any other ones yet. Once I've got that set up there as far as what module I wanted, then I wanted to go in and look at the settings. I'm not changing any settings here. There are some cool things within Foundry. One of the things I think is kind of neat is once you've got the character tokens on the screen, you can enable by default, they enable these little chat bubbles, which is kind of cool because the little pop-up from the token still shows up in the chat window, but it's kind of cool that it pops up and then it can pan to that token speaker. To me, it's more of, it helps keep people together. When we stream and when we go online, we use cameras. Even in my audio stream, which due to COVID, nobody's in person anymore, even though the first 6 years of Adventures from the Shed, everyone was literally in the shed. If you check the website, you'll see my shed itself has a big table in it, and we sat in there for 6 years creating the podcast. Once COVID hit and nobody could be together anymore, it took me a while to say I want to go to Zoom because I care about the audio quality. Oddly enough, I care about the audio quality enough that I left my microphone muted for half an hour. Outstanding. So we're doing everything through Zoom now. So even the audio podcast, I have Zoom so we can see each other. And when we do the video podcast, when Adventures from the Stream goes out, I make sure everybody's picture is on the screen somewhere, wherever we are, right from the intro where all the thumbnails are up on the screen to when we're on the map and people are out there. I think it's important to be able to see the people, which helps when we're talking about specifically Adventures from the Stream. But when you're playing with folks that don't have cameras on, I know there's a fair amount of that, having the token itself do a little pop-up bubble and the little chat and then have their camera pan to the token who's chatting, I think is a really cool feature because it helps bring those people together again, which is kind of cool. Talk about system settings. I did not know until I clicked it. Low Fantasy Gaming has no specific system settings in Foundry. Okay, I don't know what that means, whether that be good or bad. So maybe we'll find out. And then lastly, module settings. This goes directly to what I was talking about with the Touch Vtt that I use. I made no changes there. I'm just going to close it. And again, I mentioned the Touch Vtt that allows me to do this, you know, quick pan, zoom, what have you, just using the touch on the screen. So that's a good thing for me. I started with looking at what it means to create a character. Before I do that, let me mention what I was doing with the world map here, which that little drag and drop bit that we were talking about, importing the assets. So if I want to create, for example, I really like using tile sets as far as like building a map. You can see I've got some different things in here. But let's say that I wanted to use a different map as a tile. I think I've got my window open here somewhere. Yeah, so let's take this D20. And you can see right on the bottom of the Foundry screen, there's an upload. There's a little bit of drag and drop in that I can take this that I've copied from File Explorer and just drop it in here. And I swear I can. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to choose file. I want to drag and drop it. I've done this already. I bet you it's because I'm dragging it across multiple screens and all this other mess. Ah, there we go, finally. So now I've got that. You can drag and drop, but it's an extra step in. You have to have some kind of importer open to drag and drop. So it's not just choosing a file, going and finding it and opening it. If you have it open on another screen, regardless of what the screen is, you can drag and drop from a browser, drag and drop from a file explorer, whatever it is. As long as it's somewhere that you could copy from originally, you can paste into this window for that image. So just for kicks here, if I say I want to use that, I can use that to do the drag and drop. When it comes to what I was talking about earlier, or when I was talking and I was the only one, I was creating a new actor, and with that, let me just close this guy and do another one anyway. And we'll call this newer guy because he's newer than the other one. So we have the options of character and NPC. I want a character. And in this case, again, I know so little about low fantasy gaming and how it pertains to working in Foundry that I don't even know if there's a character creator wizard thing. There's kind of that with the D&D 5th edition, kind of that with the Dungeon World system, but with LFG, I don't know. So what we're going to explore is the things that I know I can do, which I did a little earlier. Find a new token for his face. And I just went in, found the class tokens. We're going to go with the X/sword this time. Newer guy is going to be a fighter, apparently. You're welcome, Rayomac. Glad I could help a little bit. Again, I think to your point where you can drag and drop between browser tabs nice and easy with Roll20, this is a step further. However, you can get there. As soon as you've got that, find a file window open, you can drag an item into that. It's kind of cool. So now I've got this character I've started, newer guy. I don't know, again, I don't know enough about LFG to be able to say this is good or not good. To me, this is like a very base character. I don't see a wizard that helps me with a new class, or I don't even know if I can type in there, can I? Yeah, I can type whatever I want in the class. That's pretty cool, in a way. So we have the attributes, skills. Some of these are going to be obvious to anyone who's played a role-playing game. They seem obvious to me. That doesn't mean that what I interpret them to be is actually the right thing. The next thing I wanted to look at was the prototype token. I think this is kind of cool. This is your template. This is the token from when you create a token from this character. So drag and drop this guy onto the map. The token that's put onto the map will be the one from the prototype token setting. It's that simple. He's going to be the template for all new tokens that go on based on this actor. However, once a token's on the map, you can change it and it won't affect the original. So say you changed it and wanted it back the way it was, delete that one and drag a new one out. Easy enough. Apparently, newer guy, his disposition is hostile. That's kind of funny. I think it's in D&D 5th edition, when you create a new one and it's a player character, I think it's friendly. But this is interesting that we've got friendly, neutral, and hostile. I'll leave them on hostile. I have no idea if it'll make any change as we go here. The image is what we created. Easy enough. Position, that's where he's going to show up on the map, I believe, when you first drag him onto the map. What his vision is within the system. Again, not knowing a lot about how the core of Foundry works with vision, because I've used a lot of the dynamic lighting within 5th edition. How it translates to the way LFG uses vision, I've got no clue. We'll figure that out at some point, right? Then lastly, this is resources. This is probably where I was messing with some of some stuff before I realized we had to start over. As it is here, I almost always, especially with a character, a player character and their tokens, I almost always want to see the hit point bar. And assuming here health is the right thing, and I want everyone to be able to see it, both myself as the game master as well as all the other player characters that are out there. I want anyone who looks at it to be able to see how much health the character has. When I do that, I just make it always for everyone, just shows up. And I think, again, health is going to be the right thing here. I'm not used to all the values within, or the attributes within LFG, because I don't know them yet, but some of them will become more apparent as we go. For example, perk base, that's got to be perception and whatever the base perception is. But when it comes to GS, I have no idea what that's going to be. We've got some things that are apparently obvious that you would use. I don't know what luck means in LFG yet. With any luck, I'll figure it out. But health, most likely health is what I want to see. So I'm going to put that one on there, and then I'm just going to hit update on that. And I think that for me, at least, that button ought to be something like save prototype token or whatever. But update token really just means update what you're working on. The other thing that it is, assign token. If I already have a token on the screen, I can choose that one. I can select that one and then go in here and assign what I've just done to the token I have selected. To me, not as intuitive, but if you happen to have a token already, maybe that's the way you want to do it. So now I've got this guy, a little bit of information about newer guy. I'm going to take his character sheet, move it down a little bit, and see if I can just get him out here on the map. So there's newer guy. There's the token. I mentioned the hit point bar. So that's what we have along the bottom. Of course, I just moved the whole thing. Get that back here. We'll get newer guy up there. So his health is there at the bottom. My presumption then is when I go in here and change his health from 10 to 5, yes, we get it updated right there on the screen. Again, really, to me, it's a really cool thing for the gameplay. When a player has to reduce their hit points, bam, everybody gets to see it on the screen. And I like the idea that it's got the whole, when you're healthy, it's all green, and it gradually gets more red as you go farther down. For example, if I go down to 1, it's going to be a nice bright red with very little hit points left. And that's kind of cool. I mean, not necessarily for newer guy, but it is kind of a cool thing. When we're looking at the token still, there are other things you can do with the token normally. But another thing I just remembered, and to me this is another cool module thing within Foundry. I'm going to go into my, so first I'm going to close the dude here. I'm going to go into my modules, and I'm going to look for, I think it's called Pop It Out, which allows you, pop out. It allows you to take windows within Foundry and pop them out into their own window, so you can kind of drag them out of the way. So I'm going to save that. Normally that causes it to reload, as you just saw. And then I'm going to go back to my character, to my new guy, and now I've got pop out right there. Again, now I can take that window and I can even drag it to another screen if I want. And because it's just a regular old browser window, I can even make it much smaller than what the game normally allows. Yes, I have to scroll, but it really depends on your preference. I think having the module to pop out the window is just a great idea to begin with. So I'm going to leave new guy there. And we're going to, and by the way, it's a separate window. As you saw, it kind of vanished because it's a separate, essentially a separate browser window. That's going to show just what is the thing that you popped out, and it doesn't stay on top of the other windows. It's kind of neat. So we do that, pop out, show them up in another window, and then you can just click away. And when you want to get back to that one, you just tap that window, tap back. And if you've got more than one screen, or if you've got one screen where you can put your Foundry game on one part of the screen and then just put your little character on the other part of the screen, you can do this for almost every window that pops up within Foundry. If there's a window that opens up, chances are along that top of the window, there's going to be a pop out option. So for example, I look back in configure settings, there's a pop out option. Opens that up and you can pop it back in. Again, these modules written by the community, they're just some very, very cool stuff that help out a lot when it comes to this. All right, so from here, we're going to look at what we've got within the compendium for LFG. If I look within a compendium, there are the different bits that you see along the top of the screen. So you can see we've got the, well, scenes, that won't necessarily be in there, but actors, items, journal entries, rollable tables. Those are the things that you're going to see within compendium, if they exist, mind you, on macros, I should mention. So when you want to look at the different things here, for example, if I want to see maybe fighter is the character I just created. What are the fighter class features? if I want to read about any of these, this is what's meant, what I'd said earlier. When you go into Foundry and you see systems, when I chose the low fantasy gaming system, this is part of what loaded. So the compendium loads, that gives you all this information that you can then work with. So if I want my fighter to have this skill or this ability, that's going to be within the character sheet, and I can click it and look at what it means anytime. Very useful information. Again, it's all right in front of you. To be fair, all programs have everything always right in front of you. The question is, how can you adapt to using it, and is it a good thing for the way you like to play the game? So we'll look at a couple of these here. So that was under actors. We can see what monsters are available. This gives you an idea of what a monster's character sheet looks like, or a monster sheet. This is the type of thing that they can do. So, you know, you can hit an attack. It apparently, if you heard that, it just rolled the dice, and I can see over here that the game master rolled this. Kind of neat stuff. That's how Foundry works. Again, if you've used any other virtual tabletop, they do the same things, but within LFG, we're learning where does that sit right on the system itself. All right. Now let's just take a look at one or two more things, and then we'll figure out where we're going to go next. Macros is kind of cool within the Foundry system itself. For those who are smart enough to write macros, I'm the kind of guy I can look at one and say it's not doing what I want. I might be able to tweak it, but writing one from the ground up, that's not for me. I like to use cool stuff that other people have created, and then when I use that to create something, then, you know, it's more than one person working on it, as it were. This is kind of neat looking at these macros, in that I see there are different slot things for spells, apparently. Deduct a level 1 spell slot. That's what it looks like to me. Dex-based initiative kind of looks neat. So weapon attack macro. And you can see within there what the actual commands are that it's going to run. A lot of stuff in there. That's why for me, no, I won't be writing that. But I'll take what somebody wrote. And let me give you a cool example here. If you saw on your screen at one point the message pops up in the console that says you didn't select any targets, you can actually copy this macro, go in and change just that little text spot for it to read whatever you want. Instead of it saying you didn't select any targets, maybe you say make sure you select a target before you do this next time. You know, whatever it may be, you can change that text, which is kind of cool. And that, for that, you don't have to know how to write macros. You just have to look, hey, this is what that text was. Here's what I want to change it to. Do that, save it. Make sure you have a different name for it. And poof, you're going to have yourself a different macro. The other one I wanted to look at here was weapon attacks itself. Oh, cool. So this is how you attack with different weapons. That's going to be part of the game system itself. And lastly, I'm curious, but the difference between spells and spells deluxe. So regular sounding spells, yeah, I can dig that. Let's take a look at what does spells deluxe actually mean. What is the difference, if anything? Again, once I learn the system, I bet this is going to make a lot more sense. All right, so there's a lot of cool stuff there. You saw what we did with our character here, new guy. Let's pop him back in onto the screen so you can see him. I want to set his health back to 10. Oh, you know what? I think we I broke something moving the character around there. We're at the point here where I want to go and check out a little bit more about the low fantasy gaming system itself. We're going to do that, and then we're going to come back soon with looking at the differences of creating an adventure, for that matter, even just creating the basic characters, background, monsters, maps, what have you, all the pieces of an adventure. How do we do that in Foundry for the system of low fantasy gaming? And I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to be looking at next when we come back with our next stream. The preceding podcast was brought to you by One Joe Young. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com. we'll see you next time.